Hey guys! So tonight we will be starting Goodwill Messages. This is the first part, and we will be talking about information and action requests along with replies to information and action requests. All right, so let's get started. Information and action requests. So for routine Goodwill messages or in general, you have to think about your purpose, the format, the language, the conventions that govern or the conventions around routine Goodwill messages, which we will be looking at tonight. So believe it or not, the letters that we write to conduct business convey Goodwill messages to others every day, such as those letters that we write to suppliers or government agencies, other businesses, and most importantly, to our customers. So over the next two lectures, we will be discussing how to write direct requests for information and for action, direct claims, direct responses, adjustment letters, letters of recommendation, and goodwill messages. So we will be starting by looking at direct requests for information or a direct request for action. So letters are the easiest to write when you have a plan to follow. We talked about this in a previous lecture. It never hurts to jot down a few notes or compose something offline, as we were talking about before with emails, before you send it. A plan for a letter is fixed by the content of the message and its expected effect on the receiver. Again, you need to be profiling your audience and thinking about their knowledge and potential reactions before you write and send these memos, requests, emails, letters. Many of your messages will request information and action in the business world. Although the specific subject of each inquiry may differ, the similarity of purpose in direct requests enables writers to use the following writing plan. Okay, so you will notice throughout this lecture as well, the writing plan for most things is pretty much the same. You always have an opening, a body, and a closing, but what you include in each spot may differ. So the writing plan for direct requests of information and action, you have an opening, which asks the most important question first or expresses a polite command. So if you're making a request, it would ask the question, and if you're making a request to action, it would have a polite command. In your body, you need to explain the request logically and courteously. Ask other questions if necessary. Remember, you probably need this person's help. That's why you're writing to them. So try to be as kind as you can, but don't be super soft and treat them like they're your best friend either. So be careful of your language in that sense. In the closing, you want to make your request and specify an end date if it's for an action. Or if appropriate, you can show appreciation of their completion of the task or response to your inquiries. The most important positions in a letter are the openings and the closing. We talked about this previously, the primacy and recency effect and what people are most likely to remember. Not only that, but readers are likely to look at those things first. The writer, then, you should capitalize on this tendency by putting the most significant statement first. And if there's a date, like for a completion, that should be last. The first sentence of a direct request is usually a question or a polite command, and it should not be an explanation or justification unless you expect resistance. Again, do not use the indirect method unless you expect people to not agree with you or not want to help you. When the information requested is likely to be forthcoming, immediately tell the reader what you want. So if you expect them to help, go right for it. This saves the reader time and it may ensure that the message is read. So instead of opening with an explanation of who you are or how you came to write this or even why for that matter, begin more directly. If your request involves several questions, then you could write a polite request such as, please answer the following questions about. So this request is a disguised command because you're expecting action and a reply sooner than later. So again, there's always like that softer, nice way to deliver these messages. The body of your letter. The body of a letter that requests information should provide the necessary details. So your explanations of why you're asking for this information. The quality of the information obtained from a request letter depends on the clarity of the inquiry. So if your questions are unclear, then they cannot answer you properly. So be careful with how you format your questions. If you analyze your needs and organize your thoughts and frame your requests logically, again, this is where making a plan first can come in handy, then you're likely to receive a meaningful answer that doesn't require follow-up messages. If you watch the email and memos video lectures, then you'll remember me talking about making that plan and checking everything before you sent your emails so that you avoided sending second, third email saying, oh, sorry, I forgot to attach that. Oh yeah, just thought of this. Same idea here. If you're clear in your first request, then you won't need to keep emailing them and asking them, or sending them letters and asking them questions, or saying, well, you didn't really answer that last time. Whenever it's possible, itemize the information to improve the readability. Use bullet points to ensure that things are parallel and your letter has a cohesive structure. You'll remember us talking about how bulleted lists or numbered lists are easier to take in. You're putting less information per sentence and it draws your attention because you're using more spaces in your writing. So don't be afraid to do something like that as well when you're making these inquiries. Use the final paragraph to ask for specific action and to set an end date if this is appropriate. Also, not a bad idea to express appreciation. If you're asking for help with something, you should be thank you for your time, thank you in advance for your cooperation, thank you for your answers, your information, whatever it may be. So a request for action is most effective when you supply an end date and a reason for that date. So don't just say, I require this information by March 31st. Tell them that you require the information by March 31st because that's when the board is voting, or that's when you're submitting your resume or your proposal, whatever it may be. It's always appropriate to end a request letter with appreciation for the action the person has taken or that they will take, hopefully, for you. But try not to do so. But try to do so in a fresh or your own personal efficient manner. So, for example, attach your thanks to the end date. You could say thanks for responding before November 15th when we need to make a decision. Or you can connect your appreciation to a statement developing reader benefits. So we are grateful for the information you will provide because it will help us improve our service to you. Or describe briefly how the information will help you. Something like, I appreciate this information that will enable me to, whatever the case may be. Try to avoid cliche endings such as thanks for your cooperation. It seems pretty standard cut and paste. You want to make it a little more personalized and specific to why you're writing and maybe even who you're writing to. Your appreciation will definitely sound more sincere if you avoid what seems like a copy-paste sentence or appreciation statement. All right, so I would like to show you a sample request letter, but I know this is probably hard to read on the screen. I'm going to see if I can pull this up somewhere else for you. Here we go. All right. So just briefly running over the format, you'll see up here we have the company that you're writing to and the information about the company. Oh, excuse me, this is you. Okay, this is you. The top there that says DCC, this is you. and the information about the company you work for and who you're writing from, and the date, of course. Then in the inside address, that is who you're writing to, just like you format a resume. So the inside address is who you're writing to. Then your salutation, always have some kind of salutation. Don't just jump right into it. If you don't know the person's name, you can say, "To whom it may concern," or "Dear sir, madam," something like this. If you know the person's last name, let's say, or even first and last name, but you don't know the gender, you could put their full name, like Dear Leslie Purdy, and that way you avoid titles like Mr. or Miss or Mrs. Okay, so here in the body of the letter, they just briefly, they have, "Can the MGM Grand Hotel provide meeting rooms and accommodations for about 250 DCC sales representatives from May 25th through May 29th. Okay, they got right into it. They didn't say, "Oh, how you doing?" or "We are coming to Toronto and we want to do this." No. They just right away they ask for what they're looking for. Then you'll see that they have like a justification. They talk about how nice the hotel seems, the reviews that they've read about the hotel. Then they ask a few additional questions in a bullet point form, a bullet point list. So you'll see they ask things like, does the hotel have a banquet room that can seat 250 people? Do you have at least 4 smaller meeting rooms, each to accommodate a maximum of 75 people? What kinds of computer facilities are available for electronic presentations? And what is the nearest airport? And do you provide transportation to and from it? In their closing, they simply say, answers to these questions and other information you can provide will help us decide which conference facility to choose. Okay, so that's why. Your response before November 15th would be most appreciated, since our planning committee meets on November 19th. And then a complimentary close, "Sincerely yours." The author's name, maybe their title, or again, the company they work for, like a signature line, and their actual signature. All right. Now we're going to look at replies to information and action requests. So often your messages will respond favorably to a request for information. So now you're writing back to somebody who's asked you for help. So for example, a customer wants information about a product and a supplier asks to arrange a meeting. Another business, I guess these are all separate, sorry. So for one example, a customer wants information about a product. Another situation, a supplier wants to arrange a meeting with you, or another business inquires about a product that you have or procedures that you use. So these are all examples of times when you would be responding to letters of requests or action letters. So before responding to an inquiry, be sure to check your facts and your figures carefully. Any letter written on company stationery is considered a legally binding contract. It's not just a legal document, it's a legal contract. So if you write to that supplier and say if he will meet you here, you'll pay him an extra $25, or you promise somebody something, it becomes a legal contract. If you don't fulfill what you've written on that page, if there's company stationery at the top, like you saw in the example there, that's a DCC, you're responsible for that. You've just made the company responsible for that. So don't get into trouble making promises on company stationery that you can't keep or haven't been approved by your superiors. If a policy or procedure needs authorization, seek approval from a supervisor or an executive before writing the letter. Another idea might be to have them not proofread it, but look at it before you send it to make sure they're okay with what you said. In complying with requests, you'll want to apply the same direct pattern that you used when you were making a request. So here's a brief look at the writing plan for information replies. So again, these have opening, body, closing, but they also include a subject line this time because it's like an email, but on paper. And you need to tell them like why you're writing to them. So the subject line identifies the previous correspondence. So the topic, potentially a date. The opening delivers the most important information first. So this is where you're saying yes or no to helping this person. The body, you arrange information logically, explain and clarify it. This is where you're putting in those reasons, those justifications. Be very careful and clear. This time you're not just asking for help. You might be turning somebody down or trying to explain something to them. You can also provide additional information if it's appropriate and build goodwill. So if you're trying to create this relationship with somebody, a supplier or another business, even a customer, you can try to start to build that relationship in your letters, in your correspondences. And in the closing, you need to end pleasantly. Even if you've said no to something, still end on a positive note. These letters are like the feedback sandwich. So end positively. All right, so in your subject area, we have an information response letter. It might contain a subject line, probably should, which helps the reader recognize the topic immediately. Knowledgeable business communicators use the subject line to refer to earlier correspondences or to summarize the main idea. For example, you might see your July 12th inquiry about work zone software. So if you receive something like a fax, then it would be super helpful to see the reply to your inquiry about work zone software. You know who needs to read this and where it needs to go, what you need to do with it, and if this is relevant. In the first sentence of an information response, deliver the information that the reader wants to hear, that they want to know about. Why did they inquire to you? So avoid wordy, drawn out openings. Don't say something like, I have before me your letter of July 12th in which you requested information about da da da. More forceful and more efficient is an opener that just answers the inquiry. For example, here is the information you wanted about zebras. When agreeing to a request for action, announce the good news promptly. So yes, I will be happy to speak to your business communication class on the topic of ... People want to know right up front when you're replying to them, yes or no. And I'm sure you feel the same way when you're waiting on a reply from somebody else. So just be aware of that. When answering a group of questions or providing considerable data, arrange the information logically and make it readable. How? You know how. Make lists. You can use tables as well. That could be good. Headings, boldface, italics, other graphics that you can use, which you know about. Charts could be good. Graphs, things like that if it's relevant. When customers or prospective customers inquire about products or services, your response should do more than merely supply answers. So you need to do more than just say yes and no. Sell the company, talk about stuff. You'll also want to promote the organization and other products. Be sure to present the promotional material with attention to the you view, right? And the reader benefits. So you can use our standardized test to free you from the time-consuming employment screening. Remember, this is like hooking them, getting them drawn in, and writing to you is much more appealing than using the first-person pronouns. In your closing, you want to avoid abruptness. Include a pleasant closing remark that shows your willingness to help the reader. Provide extra information if this is appropriate, and tailor your remarks to fit the letter that you're writing. This letter and the reader. So this letter and this receiver each time. Don't use those standardized copy-paste closings. refer to the information provided or to its use. Something like, the enclosed list summarizes our recommendations. We wish you all the best in redesigning your website. Since everyone appreciates being recognized as an individual, avoid form letter closings such as, if we may be of any further service, etc. Now, you might be thinking, okay, in the closing, you always have like sincerely yours and things like that. Those are standard. Those are typical. Don't change that too much. Like, just use the standard ones. But in the actual paragraph where you're still writing in those last few sentences, try to make it a little bit more personal and definitely to what you're writing about, to who you're writing. All right. Here is an example of a reply. Okay, so again, you'll see the company stationery at the top, Sonoma Software Incorporated. They have the date on the other side this time. You'll notice previously they had their company information all the way across the top, and these people have it just in the corner. It's up to you where you place your date, but I would say that this date is floating. You need to have it against one of the margins. So it's either on the far left or on the far right. Don't put it in the middle of the page like this is. No, it looks very strange. Okay, again, Mr. Jeffrey and M. White. Okay, we don't know male or female maybe here. Who you're writing to, the company, and the address. Don't put the telephone number in here or the fax number or the email, just the person and the address of the company. All right, so we have our Dear Mr. White. Subject, your July 12th inquiry about WorkZone WorkZone software, excuse me. Okay, you'll notice that they put the subject under Dear Mr. White. You can put it there or above it. So the subject can come before your salutation or directly after. All right, most important information first. Yes, we do offer personnel record keeping software specially designed for small businesses like yours. Perfect. Now the person knows that you're going to be able to help them and they're going to keep reading. You'll see that they answer the 3 questions in order 1, 2, 3. The person may have sent these questions in a bulleted form and they're choosing to respond 1, 2, 3. That's okay. Just remember, like I said before in another video lecture, if you've formatted things or somebody else formats them in a bulleted list, just make sure in your reply, you reply based on the order they sent it to you, whether it was numbered or not. Don't jump around in the list. Answer it in order that it was sent. Okay, so they answer the questions. Then they talk about the software. Our WorkZone software was specially designed to provide you with expert forms for interviewing, verifying references, recording times, on and on. He talks about the software. And you'll see in the closing remarks, they say on page 6 of the enclosed pamphlet, so remember this is paper, so they've mailed this, you can read about our WorkZone software. To receive a preview copy or to ask questions about its use, call this number. Our specialists are eager to help you weekdays from 8 to 5, and then the time zone. That's also important. When you get out there and you're working and you need to be writing these letters to and from, include the time zone just in case. If you're writing to another company in Ottawa or in Toronto or somewhere in Ontario, don't worry about it. But even out of province and you're stating times, give the time zone, because sometimes this can bite you in the butt. If you prefer, visit our website to receive more information or to place an order. Now you'll notice that they didn't include the web address. They could have, but they didn't. Maybe they know that this person has already been on the website based on their previous letter and things like that. If the person knows the website, don't repeat it. You don't have to say, oh, here's the following link and blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about that. Don't forget it's also paper, so they can't just click on it and it will open in their web browser. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in class. Bye.